Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're just going to go ahead and color in the second half of this illustration. This is once again just a picture of my OC's Duke on the left and Kamau on the right. Today we're just coloring in Kamau, and we're getting right into it. So I'll just go ahead and tell you guys what I'm doing. So Kamau has darker skin. Obviously. So when I do darker skin, I actually tend to struggle a little bit, just because Copic markers, their browns are not the best. They tend to be kind of desaturated, and so I'm just trying to add some warmth back into his skin by using this pink as an undertone. I saw another artist do this on Instagram, and I was like, I need that color so bad. And so yeah, I went and picked this color up. Unfortunately, his skin is actually darker than this. Obviously his skin is going to be darker. This is supposed to be like a shadow, but the colors I picked were too dark for this pink. But I really want him to have like really dark skin, and it's really hard with Copic markers. I have to find like a different brand of markers that does darker browns better, just so I could get a skin tone that I really like for him. But yeah, I just started off with this pinker color just so I could add some warmth back to it into his skin. I think by the end you don't really see it, but I feel like maybe you can not like feel the warmth in his skin more, but hopefully you feel something a little bit better about it. But yeah, and then I'm just going over all of his skin with his base color now. Like I said, it's a pretty dark color, so it does end up covering all of those little pink shadows that I did, which is unfortunate, but I think you can see just a little bit of the pink going through. And markers are translucent or transparent or whatever, so you can see a little bit of the other color when you layer over them, but when they're dark colors, they tend to cover up a lot. And then I'm going over his face. You're like, probably like, why are you coloring in his eyebrows? Listen, it's just a really small picture, and I was like, I don't really feel like trying to color around his eyebrows, so I'm just gonna color them in. It doesn't matter. His hair is black, so his eyebrows are gonna be black. They're just gonna have an undertone of brown, and this is just a little sketchbook doodle, so I was like, I don't really care about keeping his eyebrow color consistent with his haircut color that much, so I just colored over it. Sometimes when you're doing a drawing, you feel super lazy, okay? And I already didn't like the way this first half of this drawing went. You can go learn more about that from Tuesday's video or whatever. But I was kind of like over it at this point. I had done this drawing in one session, and so when I didn't do the first half well, I was like, whatever, we're just gonna do the other one, and I don't even care about it anymore. Not that it's like super bad. It's not like a bad drawing. It's just sometimes you're over it, right? You don't want to work on it anymore. That's just how it goes. Now I'm just adding some darker shadows to his skin. Unfortunately, I talked about this when I did the first coloring, but I didn't plan out the colors for this one either. So I'm trying to put down the darkest shadows right now, so that way I can go over them with the mid-tone. But unfortunately, instead of this being the darker color, this ended up being the mid-tone, and so I had to pivot again, because I didn't color in, I didn't pick out my colors well. I didn't test them together. I did after the first one. I tried to test them to see which one was darker, but I guess I didn't do the pressure right of the marker to get like the true color, because the second one that I'm using right now, it looked like it was lighter than the first one, but it is definitely not. It's definitely much darker. So yeah, even though I was pretty okay with the shadows in the first half of this drawing, the second half, I'm not super satisfied with. I just don't have enough browns to make the skin tone that I'd prefer. I have to look into some Copic market alternatives for some better browns. I like my Copics, right? But they don't always have the range that I like or that I need. Like their purples, no offense, their purples are shit. They're really bad. They don't have a really good range of purples, in my personal opinion. Maybe you use your Copics and you're like, I love the purples, but I don't like the purples, and the browns are not the best. I don't really have that large of a collection of the browns either. Actually, now that I'm looking, I do have quite a lot of browns, so I just think that maybe their browns are not the type of color that I like, unfortunately. But that is okay. We just have to look into some alternatives. If you guys want to hear about some Copic mark alternatives, let me know. And if you guys know any Copic marker alternatives that have some better browns, you can let me know. Because I just have the same sets of browns, and not every black character I want to draw is gonna have the same skin tone, you know? So yeah, I need some better browns. They're either super dark or they're super light, and that's not really the range that I want, you know? So yeah, finishing off his skin here, and we're gonna be moving into the coloring of his outfit. So the way that his outfit is, he's got like this black undershirt, and I just used some cool grays to color that in. Just because even though it's black, I don't really color with black just because I can't really add shadows to black. Black is like the darkest color. So I tend to use grays to start off with just so I could get the shadows that I like. Sometimes I could use the darkest shadow to be black, but I didn't with this one. I just kept it more of a gray. So I used cool grays this time, as opposed to a warm gray, just because Duke is red, and so I wanted him to contrast with Duke, and so Kamal's color is blue. And so I was like, oh, I'll use cool blues because Duke started using like the warm reds, and they'll stand out from each other and it'll look nice. And I do think they stand out pretty good from each other. So that's what I did there. Not really having anything to say about the coloring of this black shirt. I did have to refill my Copic marker in the middle of it, which you guys probably saw, which is always a pain. I know I should be checking my markers are full before I start using them, so that way I don't have to stop in the middle. But we already know this song and dance. I'm lazy, so I'm not really planning that far ahead. So yeah, I just colored in black, colored in gray, and then I go over with the shadows. Nothing too spectacular. When I do get to his actual like vest, so the plan for his vest is to be a puffer vest, right? I did not draw it to be a puffer vest here. Usually I do take the time to draw it as a puffer vest, but I was like, I'm not really sure if I know how to color in a puffer vest. So I just drew it as like a regular vest. But then when I get to the coloring, I color it like it's a puffer vest. So it's like, why did you do it like that? I don't know. I can't understand my own mind sometimes, you guys. Okay, sometimes I just do stuff and then change my mind on a whim, and it's like get it together, friend. Okay, do it or don't do it. Don't be so wishy-washy. Okay, because when you're wishy-washy, your results end up being wishy-washy and also not really the best. So we have to make up our minds, make a decision. Okay, make a decision so things can get done and they can look nice. I mean, your decision could come out as the wrong decision and it could look really bad, but at least you made a decision, okay? Sometimes it's better to just go for it and see that it doesn't turn out the way that you planned it than to be like scared and not do it at all. And then you never even know if it would have worked out in like a different alternate universe where you tried, you know? It's better to see that it doesn't work and then learn from that than to just do the same thing over and over and then and not know if trying something new will turn out good for you. You know what I mean? Um, Even though I struggle with that, I think a lot of people struggle with getting out of their comfort zone, and that's okay. So getting out of my comfort zone a little bit, we're going into the coloring of this puffer vest. So when you see me laying down the shadows initially, I'm not laying down the shadows to draw it as a puffer vest because I didn't. Like I said, I was not planning to color it as a puffer vest. I was planning to color it as just a regular vest. I'm struggling with where to place the shadows because I did not look up a reference for these colorings. Um, you know me, you guys. I always say get a reference, grab a reference. If you don't know what something looks like, you should just get a reference for it. Um, but I didn't do that because I wasn't gonna draw it as a puffer vest, and then I do draw it as a puffer vest, and I really could have used a reference for that, but I don't think it turned out bad. I do think that in the end, it does look something akin to a puffer vest. Um, Sometimes we can fail upwards, and that's good too. So yeah, I just started off with the darkest shadows. I don't really have a good range of blues. I have like a lot of Copics, but I feel like the range of like some of my colors is not the best. I have a lot of greens, and I feel like I have a lot of skin tones. Just because I like to draw characters. But you can draw a character with literally any skin, so you don't need skin tone colors to do that. But yeah. So I'm just adding in the darker shadows, and this is where you see me going in and drawing it and deciding to draw it as a puffer vest. I think what it was is I was not satisfied with the way that the shadows were turning out, and I was like, if I just make it all one flat color, it's gonna look weird. And you know what? Looking back, if I had made it all just one flat color, it definitely would have looked weird. So now I'm just adding the darkest shadows in a way so that way I could define like the little segments that there is on a puffer vest, you know what I mean? Um, so I'm doing that with the darkest blue, and then I'm gonna go over that and just blend it out with all of the rest of my blues. Um, Sorry if you don't like that the Duke's arm just fades into Kamal's body, and like half of Kamal's body you can't see like the half that's past Duke's arm. You should definitely be able to see some of his vest down there. But like I said, this is a drawing in my sketchbook, and every time I draw this, that's how I plan it out. It's not supposed to be like a finished drawing. I mean, it's finished in the sense that it's colored, but it's not finished in the way that I sketched it. And that's okay. Not everything needs to be finished in your sketchbook. And like I said, I don't really finish anything. I just wanted to color it in, because it's been a long time since I've colored these guys in with markers, and every time I do it, I'm not really satisfied with it. But every time I do it, I get a little bit closer to what I like. So that's good. So yeah, after I lay down the shadows, I'm just gonna go blend it out with my second darkest color, and then I will go in until I get to the lightest color, and then I will leave a small section of like light. So like there'll be some white stuff on the page, just little highlights of white, just because puffer vests tend to be typically pretty shiny. Um, and so yeah, that's what I've planned out. So I've been kind of harping on the fact that I don't really like this drawing for about 2 videos now. And so you guys are probably like, well, if you didn't like it, why didn't you just stop working on it? Why didn't you like scrap it and start over? And I'll be honest, I really don't think that there's a problem if you don't like a drawing with just scrapping it and starting over. I'm a big proponent for quitting something that you don't like. Um, like, I mean, obviously try your best, but if you try your best and you still hate it, then quit, right? I don't think there's any situation really where, well, there are some situations, but most situations, like hobbies and stuff, if you're not enjoying it, I don't see any reason why you should force yourself to like things. Like, if you're reading a book and you don't like it, drop it. If you're doing a drawing, you don't like it, tear it up, throw it away. But for me, I struggle with doing that a little bit. Um, there are some things where I'll be like, well, I'll drop it, whatever. But this is like a colored piece, so even if I'm not really liking it, I'm still gonna finish it. Just because I don't really like the way unfinished colorings look. If I've started coloring, I'm typically gonna finish it. Even if it's not like right now, the plan is to finish it. Uh, but that's just a quirk that I have. Um, but like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with not finishing anything. Like, if I really was really hating it, I really would have just dropped it. But like I said, I don't really hate it that much, and I also like the way that his puffer vest came out. I mean, it looks a little bit strange now that I'm looking at it on camera, but that's just because of Duke's arm is in the way. If I just drawn his arm all the way down, it wouldn't look so strange. But I feel like it does look puffy and it does look shiny. And it does look like he has like a weird sort of abs. But as long as I just get it referenced next time, I think I'm gonna be able to draw it looking even better and better. Um, yeah, so we're just gonna go into coloring in Kamal's hair now. So since I gave Duke like red hair, with like a red undertone, I was like, Kamal's hair is black, but I'll just go ahead and put blue under as like an undertone because like I said, Copic markers are like translucent, so even if you put another color on top of it, you're still gonna see the color that's underneath it a little bit. So yeah, I just used a blue undertone, and then I just use little swirls to try to get texture with like with the gray markers I use over top. I don't really think you can see the swirls for texture in this drawing. But sometimes we just try stuff out and it doesn't work, and that's okay. So yeah, I just go over his hair, like 2 or 3 times just to get in some darker shades. Um, yeah, and then I just color in his eyes. And then after I do that, I go in and I do all of the highlights. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, okay? It's gonna be a minute before we do highlights, but I do go crazy with the highlights. And usually when I get to the end of the drawing, I do tend to go crazy with the highlights just because doing the highlights, I feel like brings like the picture to life a little bit. Like, it could be a little bit dull before the highlights, and then so whenever I get to the highlights, I'm like, highlights everywhere. It's getting to the best part. We gotta add all the highlights in. And so yeah, there's like probably way too many highlights in this. And you'll see when I get to that. Uh, but I'm just gonna go ahead and explain a little bit because when I get to the highlights, it's gonna go by pretty fast. And I did tell you guys that I would explain why I put the highlights where I put the highlights because there is like some anatomical reasons why I put the highlights, why I put where I put them. Some of the highlights is just stylization, like putting the highlights under the eyes. You see, I put like a white line under the eyes. That's just for stylization reasons. You don't have highlights under your eyes in real life because your eyes are kind of deeper into your face. And so your brow ridge tends to cast shadow over your eyes. And so there wouldn't be any highlights under your eyes, but there are highlights in your eyes because since your eyeballs are round, they tend to stick out of your face a little bit past the brow ridge, right? And also your eyeballs reflect light, so that's why there are highlights in your eyes. And then there are other points of your face that are higher, like pushed out more. So the light is shining directly on them, right? So if you ever look at your nose, typically your nose is gonna have a pretty strong highlight on the tip, just because that's pretty much the furthest point from your face, and so the most light is shining on that. So that's why I typically put a highlight on the nose. That could also be a highlight on your cheeks, because your cheeks are also one of the points that stick out further from your face, so more light is gonna shine on them. The highlight is not gonna be as strong as it is on your nose because, like I said, your nose tends to be the point of your face that sticks out more. So it's gonna get more light. But I like to stylize having highlights on the cheeks. Um, yeah, and so that's where I put the highlight on the nose and on the cheeks. I put the highlight on the eyes. Like I said, I put that for stylistic reasons. I just like the way that it looks. I think it helps emphasize the eyes a little bit more. I don't think it really worked in this drawing just because the eyes are so small. And also, I should have gone over Kamal's with like a lighter brown color because I feel like the white against his darker skin, it stands out a little bit too much. But you can put Copic markers over paint, and they will work that way. So if you guys ever wanted to do that, you can. But it's just gonna tend to lighten the color a little bit. And then I go ahead and put highlights all over their Duke's body. I just did that again for stylistic purposes. There are some highlights for your body that, because like on the parts that stick out more, like you will tend to get highlights on your shoulders. Like if you take your shirt off, you might notice that the light is hitting your shoulders. Most light comes from above, just because that's how lights are set up. So the light is tending to hit your shoulders a little bit more. Obviously, it would not be hitting him so much here as it does here, but this is, like I said, this is for stylistic reasons. Um, Honestly, you can get away with pretty much anything for stylistic reasons. I mean, obviously there are some caveats to that, but I'm not really getting into that today. I think this video has been pretty negative already, so we're not really going to get into any sort of stuff like that. But yeah, so we're getting to the end of the video. And then I guess I didn't really talk about why I make the what's it called, the highlights, why I make them little hearts. I saw somebody, an artist, do that a really long time ago, and I really liked it. Obviously the highlights on your face are not hearts, but like I said, you can get away with a lot of things for stylization reasons. And if you're like, that just looks cute, that just looks cute, friend, okay? Sometimes you just do things because they look cute. And then I add all these highlights to the puffer vest, and you know what? They really didn't need it. Um, and also, it doesn't really make sense if it's got like a highlight in the center and then also like a highlight on the side, right where the shadows are. But you know what? I do whatever I want. So sometimes I just want to add so many highlights. Sometimes I get into a highlighting frenzy, and I just add highlights all over the place. And then I just add some highlights to the spit, just because, just to make it look shiny. It is spit after all. But that's the end of the video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.